jump right into it today. I know I usually don't think a sermon will be more than 1 week, but I'm pretty confident today that we can complete this in a timely manner. And so that is going to be our goal. What I would like you to do today is, once you get your place there in Psalms, just kind of keep your Bibles easily accessible today, because there's going to be a lot of verses we're going to look through primarily in Psalms that are going to kind of give us the idea of what we're talking about. I know some people don't title sermons. I usually do. I had another thought this morning as I was this past week called upon to do a rather unpleasant job of fixing someone's, wasn't their main toilet stack drain, but it was for the sink, for the stationary tub, some gray water, I guess. And so it was going to be lessons learned from the sewer. But I thought maybe this was a little more fitting for the title. But the project I was on, I was told when I was called it won't be very difficult. A little pipe coming out of the ground that's got a little hole in it, just need that repaired. I said, okay, I think we can do it. And so I went down on Thursday, and it was 100% opposite of what I was thinking. I thought I was repairing a water line. I was repairing a sewage line. And it had just a little, it had shrunk down from a 2-inch pipe. They had reduced it to 1.5 inches, and then it had been reduced down to either 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches copper pipe, which the house is probably, I guess, over 100 years old for sure. And where it went down into the drain, the pipe had broke. I was told it was just a little, like a pinhole, water was coming out. And so I get there, take an assessment of it. It doesn't seem too complicated, different than what I thought, so I wasn't totally prepared with what I brought. I go down to the store to get a piece that I think will not easily fix it, but fix it somewhat for a limited amount of time, which was all I was told to do. And when I came back, somebody had came to the house in between when I left and when I came back and had the washing machine on, and water was just, spraying 3-4 feet out from the little pipe, just mess all over the floor, the basement floor, which was right ahead of the drain. It does not make a deal, but it was just getting everywhere. And I thought, my goodness, I should have left a note, number one. Now I have to crawl around in the water and, it's washed everything out from the, like 100 years worth of mud and dirt that's down there. Now it's all over the floor. And so I turned it off, tried to turn it off, and put the piece on there. And I said, I know this won't work, but I'm going to try it so I can say that I tried it, and then we can go from there. And so I turned it back on, and instead of spraying out, now the water's spraying straight up in the air. It's spraying everywhere. Just a mess. It was a problem. Right? A problem that he initially saw and called a plumber. The plumber looked at it and said he didn't want to mess with it, which I didn't know until after the fact, and called me, and he said, just fix it, Josh, just fix it. I said, okay, I'll figure it out. And so that was Thursday, so I went home about 1 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, and I thought, man, how am I going to do this? I don't, it went to a big pipe, and it had, somebody told me what it was called, but, they packed the pipe, and then they put concrete so that, it can go into a smaller one without, it's either, I think it was the cast iron pipe, or I don't know, it was one or the other, but it's packed in there. And so I'm thinking, man, if I just get the right size pipe, find 1.5 inch copper pipe, I just pull that out, slide that in, I'm done. I got it fixed. Well, I priced a 1.5 inch copper pipe I needed about, I thought at the time I needed 3 inches, but I really ended up needing about 8 inches of it. Well, I priced a copper pipe. They sold what I needed in a 10-foot section $334 or $54, I don't remember. And I knew that wasn't very good. I knew he wasn't going to let that think that was very good. And anyway, I had to order it, and who knows when it was going to get here. And so I told myself, that's not going to work. I can't do that anyway. I'm not even going to take that to him. He probably doesn't even want to spend that for the whole thing, fixing it too. And so I sat there, and I just came up with every possible solution to fix it. I thought and thought. I mean, a couple hours. I just sitting there. Every scenario I thought I would need, what I would need to do. So I go down to the store, and I go into the plumbing department, and I'm standing there, and usually nobody ever bothers you. I went to Home Depot, nobody ever bothers you, asks you what you need, but I guarantee 7 people. Can I help you? I don't know if they just management just talked to or whatever. Can I help you with anything? Help you find anything? No, I don't need anything. And they see me standing there, like they came back 20 minutes after, I'm still standing there. I think, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's looking for. And I'm just trying to figure out, okay, if this goes wrong, I can do this. If this goes wrong, I can do it this way. If that won't work, I can put this piece in. If I can cut this piece this way and finagle it this way, I can get it to work. And so I sat there all probably an hour in the store getting all these assortment of pieces. And I had went up to the barn in the pile that I had of scrap stuff and found a piece of conduit, electrical conduit. And I thought, man, that might work. It seemed like the right size. Everything seemed like I said, I think I got it. So I go back to the house, and I have pieces that could possibly, I could plumb the whole house basically with the pieces I have. There's no store within 20, 25, 30 minutes of the house. So I got all the pieces I'm going to need to fix this thing. I take it apart, and lo and behold, it comes apart so easy. I said, man, I got it. This is going to work out so great. And so I had a piece that I bought. It was too small, which I thought it might be, but I was going to fix it a different way if it was. Too small. I had another piece. I said, this is going to work exactly right. Go to put it in, it's too big, right? It won't fit. It's the only 2 sizes. I don't have anything else. Well, I already thought about it. If I couldn't get it, I was going to sand the whole piece of pipe down and get it all around and get it in there and get it to work. And so I start sanding it down and get it, and man, I can't believe it's actually going to work. If you've ever dealt with something like that, no matter what you do, normally it doesn't work. Well, Oliver went down yesterday. I fixed it yesterday. He was helping me, and we put it all together. And we were leaving. I was only there a couple hours fixing it. We were leaving. He said, "Man, well, how did it say? That went surprisingly good, or surprisingly well." And he said, "I can't believe not many things went wrong." And I said, "Oliver, everything went wrong Thursday." And I said, "I spent all this time coming up with all the solutions and bought all the parts that if whatever went wrong today, I knew we could fix." And I started to think about that, about life. Because sometimes people will tell you that, this is a problem, and this is how I got through it. It wasn't hard, and it was a little difficult, but it wasn't. And so they prepare you. And what I've learned about preparation for people, sometimes they ill prepare you. They tell you what their experience was, but that doesn't mean it will be your experience, right? It doesn't mean it's going to be the same. Human beings are similar in many ways, but other ways are drastically different. How we handle trouble, or how we handle adversity or trials is always different. But what I did between Thursday and Saturday is I tried to account for every possible thing that could go wrong and have a solution for it. And I think so many times in life, we look at the problem and at first it's overwhelming. When the water was spraying 4 feet up in the air, getting everywhere, I was kind of overwhelmed. I said, man, I don't know what to do. And the first thought is, why did I even take this job? You know what? It's not going to pay anything. It's not going to be worth it for my time and aggravation. Why did I even do it? And it seems like when trouble comes, the first question we always ask is that, right? It's not, why did I take the job or why did I do it? It's just why, right? Why? And in the kind of line of work that I'm slowly getting into, I'm there to solve people's problems. I'm there to fix problems that they have. And so I should never ask, why did I do this? That's the kind of work I'm into. They have a problem. Either they don't have the time, ability, or effort, don't want to put the effort in to fix it. That's why they call me. I'm not doing it for free. Right? I know going in, there's a problem, and they hired me to solve it. Whatever it is. Plumber didn't want to mess with it. I don't blame him. It was an aggravating job, a job that wasn't easily fixed, a job that to be fixed right was going to cost thousands of dollars. But they didn't want to spend that. They just wanted it solved. Solve the problem. And in life, when problems come that are not expected or we're not prepared for, we don't have the right tools for it, we look and say, why? Why did this happen? And that is true in this story. Not Psalms. We're going to be in Psalms. We'll go there to 1 Samuel. You're probably there already. I should have turned there. 1 Samuel chapter number 30. And we're going to look at the first 6 verses here. Boy, if that time's right, then I don't know what we're going to do or not. All right, 1 Samuel chapter number 30. And I know that the hour's not right, but I think the minutes are. And verse number 1. It said, "And it came to pass, when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the 3rd day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag, and smitten Ziklag, and burned it with fire. And he had taken the women captives, and the women therein, and slew not any of them, either great or small, but carried them away, and they went on their way. So David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives were burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captive. And David saw that the people lifted up their voice and wept, until they had no more power to weep." Let's look at verse number 6 here for a minute. "And David was greatly distressed. For the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God." Now this is a very intriguing story because of the background in which it was written. It's intriguing because David had just fled from Saul. He did not know what to do. He didn't know where to go. He was a wanted man, and in essence a hunted man. Saul had sworn to kill him. And David's first idea was, we've got to seek a refuge. And what are we going to do? And so he makes his way there, and he goes over into a certain land, and there is the king Ziklag. Now, does anybody know what people Ziklag was the king of? Okay, I didn't either. I'm not saying, I didn't either. I had to look it up. Ziklag was the king of, you're not going to believe it, the Philistines. Now, David had a very interesting relationship with one Philistine, named Oliver Goliath. You won't even pay attention. His name was Goliath. So we find here David is now running for his life. He and his band of men have been threatened and have been outcasted and have now left their home and are on a mission to find a new place to live. They end up in the land of the Philistines. And at first, the king was very weary of David. They knew who David was. They knew about him. He had already had a meeting with them. And the king says, this man is David. He is coming in to destroy us. He is coming in to take over our land. And the Bible tells us what David did to assure the king that that was not so. he grew his beard out, and if you grow a beard, you'll know that one thing is absolutely going to happen no matter what. You're going to get spit in your beard, right? I mean, it's just going to get stuck in there, right? It's going to get stuck. Besides the French fries and the ketchup and everything else that's intermingled, it's just going to get in there. So David has a pretty good beard going, at this time, and all of a sudden he starts drooling, and just spit is all over his face. It's, hanging down, probably snot hanging down from this side. He is a sight to behold. The Philistines look at him and says, this guy is mad. He's went and lost his mind. He is absolutely crazy. He's not the David of old. He's not the David to be feared. He's not the David to be worried about. I mean, he is went cuckoo, he's gone. And what else is he going to do? He says, I don't have a place to go, because David knew about trouble. If anybody in the Bible had more trouble than David, apart maybe from Christ, who they crucified, it'd be hard to find. David was pursued by Saul. He barely escaped several attempts on his life. His entire family was kidnapped. His friends turned against him and tried to kill him. Hushath-Hussein, having committed fornication, murder, his son had defiled his daughter. His son had then turned a kingdom against him. His son eventually leads a revolt. He dies, and his grief is there. David loses a young child. He was certainly a man that was just riddled with trouble and problems. And here we find him in Ziklag, and he says, listen, they let him in, and he comes in, and his men come in, and he says, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here on a respite. I'm here to just rest with you. Well, something unusual happens, that the Amalekites invade the southern portions of the Philistine land there, and Ziklag, and began to smite it there. And as the men of the city, following with the king there in the land, they came and they go down, and they find out that something else was awry, because this didn't make sense, just attacking with a few, bringing the troops down south. And here comes the people, and the land, Ziklag, there was getting burned, and the king saw him and saw what was going on. And here comes another band of men, and they go into the city, and they don't kill anybody, which was unusual, but they didn't kill anybody, but they took all the women and all the children. And so here comes the people of the men fighters of Philistine. They come back. David comes back with them. His sign of good faith, he's going with them to fight, but he comes back, and the women are gone, their sons are gone, their daughters are gone. Obviously, seemingly, well, maybe not obviously, seemingly David didn't have anything to do with it, because he was with the men of Ziklag and the Philistines there. He was with them. Verse 3. So David and his men come to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captive. Then David and the people were with him, lifted up their voices and wept until, that's verse number 4, till there was no more power to weep. That simply means there was no more tears to cry. I think at some point in your life, you've probably been there. This is not stubbing your toe bad. This is not, a financial burden that you don't know what to do. This is like you've come to the end of yourself. And no matter if you feel such grief and sorrow, there's just no more tears left in you to cry. There's nothing left. And that's where they were. Now, it's very easy. Listen, it's very easy to read the Bible and talk about a man's wife getting kidnapped and his sons. They don't know if they're alive or dead at this point. They don't know anything about it. It's very easy to see, well, just have faith, have faith, have faith. But somebody came into their homes, drug out their wives, their children, and taken them away and burned down Ziklag, burned it to the ground. And what are they going to do? They said they wept till they had no more power to weep. There was no more strength left. And then something unusual, so unusual, happens in verse 6. Verse 5, David loses his 2 wives and his children there. But we have verse number 6. And David was greatly distressed. Now, why was he so distressed? I mean, just tells us he lost his 2 wives. His children were taken just like everybody else's. But that's not even, at this point, why he is so distressed. Verse 6, David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning who? Him. You know what they said? Let's kill David. Let's kill David. His men said let's kill him because he brought them there. The Philistines or the Ziklagians said let's kill him because he came there. Everybody wanted to stone David because the only thing he had done is he had came to that city. Now that's like a problem you can't be ready for. This is like a grief that was already there, and he could not have made an allowance that if our wives are taken captive and our children are kidnapped, I have to be ready to stand because everybody's going to want to kill me because of it. I mean, how could he have prepared for that? He couldn't have, right? There's no way he could have anticipated that problem. But there was something about David. David was a problem solver. Lots of people called upon David to solve problems. But this was a problem even he wasn't ready for. It was out of the blue. It was unexpected. It was not something that could have been foreseen. This was an issue that was beyond his control. And the people were very serious because you see there, because the soul of all the people was grieved. And we all know this, that when problems come, we sort of forget what we know, and when grief comes, we often act irrational. Right? When grief hits us, we act irrational. Because the thing that caused our grief has broken the rationale thinking in our mind, because if it was rational, the thing that caused our grief wouldn't have happened. Right? I mean, that's just... Maybe you don't think it that way. That's how I look at life. That's how I look at this verse. If it was rational thinking and we're grieved by it, then whatever has caused us the grief, we feel shouldn't have happened. And so we're grieved. And so we become irrational in our thinking. And so much they said, let's kill David. Let's kill David because somebody else, not knowing David, not related to David, not saying David anything, they came in and stole our wives and children, and we don't know where they are. We don't know what's happening anyway. Now the people thought, maybe the people of Philistine, the city of Ziklag, maybe they thought, well, David distracted us and we left our families unprotected, and now they're gone and we're gone, and what are we going to do? But he said David did something. That's where you find strength out of trouble. Because what David did is the answer to what we must do when trouble comes. It's not to do what I tried to do, to allow for every scenario, every situation, every problem, because all I was fixing was a simple sewer line. I didn't lose my wife. I didn't lose my children. I didn't suffer grief that is insurmountable. It was just a problem that I wasn't ready for. And that's again what happens to David, a problem that is unexpected to him. He's grieving from the loss of his family. He's grieving from the loss of his friend's family. And now he is distressed because they're trying to kill him because of it. And it says David encouraged himself. No, before I say that, look what he said. Every man for his sons and daughters. Then there's another word there. It says, but David encouraged himself in the Lord, his God. And this is the truth that is so fleeting from our faith, is what do we do in times of trouble kind of defines what we are doing, because what David did in his time of trouble, when he comes in his life, he was living there in Ziklag, having fled from Saul, now aligned with the Philistines. The Philistines are preparing to battle against King Saul at the time. And David was going to join with the Philistines to fight him. But they didn't trust him. They simply didn't trust all that he was doing. And so as they sent his men back, they said, "You're not fighting with us, because when the battle comes, you will turn and surround us and we're going to be in trouble." So they sent him back. And as he comes back, he finds out what had happened. They had destroyed the city. The town of Ziklag had been attacked and burned by the Amalekites. And the women and children had been kidnapped, and including those families that were David's there. He's distressed. He's ready for a problem and a battle, and the people are ready to kill him, not because he had not been there and he had not been able to stop it. If we had not went, this wouldn't have happened, or if we hadn't even came here, this wouldn't have happened. And so they say, "We're going to kill you." And David had lost his family, and his own life had been threatened. But the Bible says, but David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. He found strength for himself in God. And the strength he has received, he's able to deal with the problem that is before him. Now let's quickly just get over to the book of Psalms, we'll start in chapter 59. We're just going to look at a couple verses here, and I think these are very important. We may not even really get to the last point of the sermon, but I want you to get these here. Psalm chapter 59, and verse number 1. How do you encourage yourself in the Lord your God? How do you do it? And we all know that we must do it, because trouble is always going to find us. And even if we've made all preparations to be prepared, trouble will come that we're not prepared for. And what happens in Psalm 59 is David is being pursued by Saul. He is running for his life. This is a little premature to going to Ziklag, but it's around the same time. Look at verse number 1. Do you indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do ye judge me uprightly, O ye sons of men? Ye in heart ye work wickedness. Ye weigh violence in your hands of the earth. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They're like the deaf. Oops, I'm not even reading the right one. Let's go to 59. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. All right, 59 here. He says there, deliver my, 58, 59. Deliver my soul, me from mine enemies, O my God. Defend me from them that rise up against me. Deliver me from the workers of iniquity, and save me from bloody men. For though they lie in wait for my soul, the mighty are gathered against me, not for my transgression, not for my sin, O Lord. They run and prepare themselves without my fault. Awake to help me, and behold. What is he saying? He says, I want you to know, God, why I'm being pursued. He says, do you know where I am? Do you know that I am running? He said, deliver me. How do you encourage yourself from the Lord when you're fleeing an enemy? You ask God for deliverance. You begin to see here, as he wrote these things, he was being pursued for his life. Look at it back a couple of chapters. I'll try to get it right this time. Look at chapter 56. This is when he was imprisoned there in Gath. Look at chapter 56 and verse 1 and 2. He says, be merciful unto me, O God, for man would swallow me up. He is fighting daily, oppresseth me. Mine enemies would daily swallow me up, for they be many that fight against me, O thou most high. He said, they're trying to destroy me, God. I need your help. Look at Psalm chapter number 3. This is when He is now not fleeing from Saul. He already has the kingdom. He has now appointed Absalom to be the ruler of these small issues of the land. And he said, just bring me the big issues. He learned that from Moses, or really from Jethro. Moses' father-in-law told Moses to do that. And he says, let them divide bring the little issues to you. Just bring the big things to me. And what happened is Absalom stole the heart of the kingdom, of the people, because he seemed to care for them. But look at how he's fleeing from Absalom. He says, Lord, how long will they increase that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. Many there be which saith of my soul, there is no help for him in God. What did David do in times of trouble? We find each time, and many times he found himself in trouble. Again and again we see he is turning to the Lord. He is seeking the Lord's help. He is hiding in the wilderness of Judah. He writes Psalm 63. He encouraged himself in the Lord, and we see in chapter 56, he would find a place that God would help him. In Psalm 59, he was determined to continue praising God for his help. From Psalm 63, David is overcome with this problem of loneliness by seeking the Lord. He's overcome by loneliness, and he overcomes it by praising and praying in Psalm 63. He overcomes it by meditating upon the things of God in Psalm 63, verse 6 and 7. In each of these Psalms, David is basically saying the same exact thing. He says, in times of trouble, put your trust not in yourself, put your trust in God. O Lord, again and again and again, deliver me. O Lord, deliver me from this, from that, from the other. Deliver me. How do you encourage yourself in the Lord when problems come that cannot be anticipated? They cannot be expected. They cannot be understood. They cannot be rationalized. How do you then encourage yourself in the Lord? You take the problem to the Lord and say, deliver me from the enemy that is at hand. The enemy sometimes is physical, sometimes is spiritual, and the enemy sometimes is in here and in here. What our heart and mind tells us, that if this were, if God truly loved me, then this couldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. And David said, no, he said, each time I've done this, I have turned to the Lord, not ran from the Lord. Because grief makes us, or trouble makes us forget what we know, and grief makes us act irrational. I know many, many people that have felt like the Lord has wronged them, who were once faithful, who are no longer faithful. Because when trouble came, they found grief and didn't find strength. Because troubles do not bring strength, but we can find strength in trouble. The sermon is very simple. How do we deal with our problems today? See, because we face many problems, even as Christians. Some are related to family, and some are related to personal matters, some are related to jobs, and some are related to finances. But in most cases, we try to tackle those problems alone. We see them, we assess them, we wonder why they are happening, and ultimately we spend our concerted efforts trying to solve them. And we leave God simply completely out of the picture. Sometimes we even forsake Him because of what's happened. We no longer are praising and praying daily. We are neglecting to see the assembly and to assemble and glorify God. We don't worship. We say this, once I get it figured out, I'll get back. And we know that doesn't happen, because as any of us who have ever struggled with being faithful to not just church, but of anything, especially these resolutions we start, I've committed, I'm gonna lift this much weight, I'm going to lose this much weight. What happens? The moment we break routine, the moment is so much infinitely hard to ever start back. was talking to someone just recently, and he was telling me somebody he knows was out of church, and he said, I've been praying for him and praying for him. And he said, I can't say too much because he said, I had a little issue, and he said, we were out for a couple of weeks, and he said, it was a month. He said, next thing I know, I've been out of church for 4 or 5 years. He said, just that simple. I said, that's that simple, because it just gets into a routine. It's like anything else. I was telling the boys even last night, I said, when you have young kids, let me tell you what a big hassle is. It's a big hassle to go to church, right? I mean, let's not over-spiritualize it. It's a hassle to go to church with kids because you got to wake them up earlier than you probably would have. Put them in the car. Now, for us, Oliver said, well, it was Oliver Jasper. We weren't a hassle. I said, you were the biggest hassle. I said, because you had to ride in the car an hour. Then I couldn't even help your mom. I had to stand up and preach. I said, it's a hassle, right? It's a hassle to do it. And we think about all the things because it seems like every time, the one day that most things go wrong is Sunday morning, right? Kids spits up here, they get in a fight here. For the most time, the boys behave. The worst behaved they are? Sunday morning, riding to church. That's when they fight each other the most, right? So I dropped something off at Charles, going from Charles to here. Fight, we're just hitting the air, and he just happens to be right there when I'm trying to hit. But fighting each other, yeah. Sit down and be quiet! I don't hear anymore, no more talking! Why? It's Sunday morning, right? It's something that the devil's trying to use to discourage you. But that's what it is. It's a hassle. But the reason we do it, and the reason we put up with the hassle, and the reason we do all these things as much as we can, is because we need to be in church and they need to be in church. But lots of things that we do for the Lord, when you think about it in a non-spiritual way, man, it's a burden. It's a hassle to serve the Lord and to try to do those things. But you must put it in perspective. Well, it was probably a hassle for him to leave glory, leave heaven, come here to earth to be crucified, spit upon, beaten. That was probably a hassle. For him to go to hell for us, I'm thinking that's probably a hassle, right? It was probably a hassle for him to do that. I don't want to make light of it by any means. But you understand that there are so many things that pull us and 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 pull us. And we can't make contingencies for everything. Sometimes we just have to turn to the Lord and say, if it's going to happen, I need your help. I just need your help. The more we do it, the more God would have us to do it. And the idea is we're never going to have our life so straightened out that it makes sense to do it. We had the boys involved in sports and baseball and Oliver played soccer and talking about basketball. But you know what they did? You know what they went and did? They put all the games on Sunday. It's like, why? There's 6 other days of the week that we could be involved and do these things, but they put it on Sunday. Now, do you know why they put it on Sunday? And I bet if you ask them, they don't even know why they did. It's just the most convenient day. But there's something else at work here, right? There's something bigger. There's principalities. We fight not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and spirits and powers of the air. The world's sort of like a puppet at his hand. They do his bidding, his calling. And so now I must choose. Now, it wasn't too much of a choice for me because we're going to come to church and I'm the pastor here. But I'm not going to put anybody down, but if my kids are really good at sports, and I thought they had a potential to do something, the one time they did Sunday, it might be a choice for me. I'm only missing one, so it's only during this season. We can rationalize anything, right? It's about where our priorities are. But when trouble comes, if we don't have the base for place to find strength, all we'll find is despair, hopelessness. We'll put that rubber boot around the problem and watch the chaos shoot 5 feet in the air and say, oh, what am I going to do now? You know what I can contemplate do? I'm going to call them on the phone and say, I can't fix it for you. I don't know what to tell you. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to say. That's what, in life, I want to say, I don't care anymore. Whatever I do doesn't work. Whatever I do just makes it worse. That's how, people rarely who are, life's going good. Let me just do it. Life's going good. You know, they have enough, they have more money than money, you know. They're not at the end of the rope, and things are going well, and they're in church. It's very rarely then that you leave church, right? When things are going well, things are going good, everything's working out. You know, so you don't get up one more and say, I don't feel like going to church anymore. But it's when the exact opposite is happening. You're trying and you're struggling. And that's just one more thing to burden us and one more thing to put on us. And it's like, you know, you get to the point sometimes is we don't see the benefit because the problems are still coming. What God says, or what the world tells us is, you know, God helps those. They heard this. God helps those who help themselves. It's not that at all. It's not even close to that. But the Bible tells us in Proverbs chapter 3, he says, but rather God helps those who put their trust in Him and lean not on their own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. That's who God helps. It's the one who says, in my distress, O Lord, save me. In my time of worry, O Lord, deliver me. In my time of sorrow, O Lord, be near to me. O Lord, watch I have the wings of a dove that I may find respite somewhere. O Lord, help me. I mean, read the psalm. How many times did David just say that? Help me. What have I done to do this? But I can't figure it out. I've rationalized, but the enemies are still there. So what am I going to do? Help me. Just help me. One thing is certain, God leaves us to deal with those problems of our own, and without His help, when we leave God out of the picture. We can all learn from experience, of course we can. I've learned from experience after dealing with this individual on more than one occasion that usually what they tell me is not true. It's just not true. Well, that will be a simple fix. I've dealt with this individual several times, worked for them for many projects, and I don't know if there's ever one thing that's been like they said it was, right? It would be that. And after every solution, after every problem, I came with a solution, and I said, it wasn't like you said. I think every conversation, it wasn't exactly like you said, and if you want me to fix it, I can do it, but it's just be aware that it's not like you said. And it's hinting, you know, it's going to cost more money, right? I don't ever say that. I was like, you know, and I go through the big, and you don't want to, when you want it to cost even more money, you say it slower. I'm going to have to jackhammer all this out. I'm going to have to I'm going to have to put all this, you know, just say it slower, because I want you to be prepared when it comes, because I'm not doing it for free. I want to solve the problem. And somebody that is paid to solve problems, like whatever your position is, you know, you probably, if somebody brings problems to you and says, figure it out, fix it, you know, in whatever aspect of life it is, and when you get good at that, then you want to do that to God. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to think about it every possible time. I'm going to strengthen myself in myself. And God says, well, here comes more trouble. Because, listen, and I'm finished, until we find strength in trouble, trouble will come, because ultimately God wants us to rely on Him. And the more we rely on Him, the better our faith, our relationship is, and the more our faith can grow. And the more and more we rely on self, the less and less we lean on Him. You know, it's so, when you just think about the words, He says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not on their own understanding. And you think about, you know, I don't stand here like this and lean, right? I mean, I don't preach a sermon like this, right? Just bear with me for a minute. I don't preach like this, because that's goofy, right? When do I lean on something? Well, I lean on something usually when I'm worn out. I get here like this. Like, so I don't know what, what's going on today. I'm leaning. When Dad taught in the Sunday school, you know, he would shake this thing would be rocking back and forth. He would lean on it like this. How many times do you taught a lesson like this? You know, how many times did you do it? Why did he do that? He was leaning on it. You don't lean on something when you have all the strength in the world. And God said, well, here's the issue. Lean not on your own understandings. When you are so worn out that you have to lean on the truck, or lean on the tree, or lean on whatever's holding you up, and you're so worn out, He says, that's when you don't lean on your own understandings. That's when you, in essence, lean on me, acknowledge me, and I will direct you. It's like this. If I just have a few more minutes, I can figure it out. I'm leaning all my stress and worry, I'm putting on my own understanding of it. I'll figure it out, I'll figure it out, I'll figure it out. And God says, just trust in me. Lean on me. Rely on me. I'll direct you. I'll give you strength. But if you won't do it, and I'm calling you to do it, you know what you'll find? Trouble, heartache, sorrow, misery. Until at some point we say, I can't lean on this anymore because it is not fulfilling my problem. It's not answering my problem. What can I do? And he says, why don't you read Psalm? What did David do? David couldn't figure it out anymore. Oh, Lord, help me. Deliver me. Guide me. Direct me. Save me. Help me. That's somebody who's leaning on God. And they are right now. I pray this would help us. I pray we can be all we should be for God. Father, bless us now. Thank you for today. Thank you for your goodness, mercy, grace. Help us to lean on you. Let's not trust in what we can do. We can't do it. All the people of Ziklag and David's men were so upset because of what was going to take place. Father, you had an answer. He encouraged himself and came up with the answer. I pray we do that. We rely on you. Trust in you. I pray you bless